Hi, Upstart. Good morning from San Francisco. Let's get this started. I'm here today as co-founder and CEO of Martie, but maybe more importantly, as a serial entrepreneur to tell my story. And I really, whoever joins in, please send me like Q&As and chats to guide this conversation and have this feel like there's more than just me and my guest bedroom this early morning talking to myself. So please lean in and let's try and have a more interactive conversation if we can. So I was invited to tell my story, and I figured I'll jump through it pretty quickly and tell you how I ended up like working with Marty today, and rather spend some time on some of the learnings that I've had so far being an entrepreneur for a good 14, 15 years, because I figured if I tuned in, that would probably be more interesting than someone talking about themselves. Um, but again, please talk to me over chat or Q&A if you're here so that I'm not feeling like a crazy person just sitting here alone talking about myself. So I'm a three times founder. I've had two exits. And to go back, I started my first company at the age of 19. And I'm that old that like at 19, like when I started my company, it was not cool to be an entrepreneur at all. So the journey really was I took kind of like a sabbatical before going to university because I didn't know what I wanted to study. I went traveling. I took a job when I came back, and I ended up working for kind of like a dinky little what we would call today's startup at that time, and got really inspired. And I was just really, really lucky to end up with a lot of entrepreneurs around me that kind of mentored me and showed me the way, and it just felt natural all of a sudden that I would start my own business. So with that, I actually got the opportunity to kind of inherit a company, so an e-commerce at that time. Um, so at the age of 19, that was my first startup. It was a very different time. We did not have Shopify, Squarespace, Klaviyo, all the phenomenal tools that we're using today to get something like an e-commerce up and running. So guys, it was really hard. And once you finally kind of like hard coded the ecom to be up and running, marketing was a different beast as well. Today we can MVP test and like get messages out there to see what resonates via Facebook and Instagram pretty easily. And that was just not the case when you look back 14, 15 years. So after running that business for about 2 years, it was acquired. Maybe you'd call it a soft landing rather, but had someone pick that business up. And with the learnings that I've had and the frustration of like how hard it was to really like get both scale with marketing, impressions with marketing to niche audiences, and also do it for a price that is, reasonable. I went on to found an ad network. So an ad network aggregates sites and their inventory to offer impressions for a better price. So launched that at the age of 21, ran it as a CEO for 5 years, took it to a few countries in Europe, and I really grew up with this company. We just sold the business 2 weeks ago, so it's been a beautiful business that had like phenomenal teams over the years. I was after the 5 years as CEO, I was chair board and majority shareholder. So I stayed with that business for a good more than 10 years, which was pretty cool to see that evolve. But growing up with Ad Profit, after those 5 initial years, I hired a new CEO because I really realized that my own vision and mission was to build companies that make people healthier. So I dropped out as CEO and I founded a company named Vint, which was a peer-to-peer marketplace for personal and small group workouts. This was the first company that I leaned in and got venture funding. So we raised capital in Sweden, we got product market fit, and this is the company that moved me over to San Francisco about 8 years ago. Um, so I have a lot of things to say on a peer-to-peer sort of model. Also, like it's a phenomenal lesson. It was really hard. Once we hit scale, we really were struggling to have the supply side do what we wanted them to do. So long story short, after scaling up and seeing some traction here in San Francisco, we actually ended up having to pivot the business. And at that point, I went into kind of survival mode to make sure that the business would survive. And we brought it into being a business SaaS company, which was not aligned with my own personal vision and mission. So after having done that, I stepped out of Vint and went back to my own personal vision mission, trying to build healthier companies that make people healthier. And I realized that I should have wanted to focus on food, because if you can do something big in food, you will evidently affect people's health. So I MVP'd a few different ideas over a period of like 2 years and learned everything I could about the food industry at large. I met my co-founder about 2 years ago, who's a seasoned food entrepreneur and food operator. And together we started launching food brands. There were healthier food brands, better for you, accessibly priced, of course, with the sustainability angle. And after about a year, we kept running into the issue of surplus. So we just went deep on that issue, because having surplus overstock inventory as a food brand is detrimental to your margins. It's detrimental to any effort that you have trying to be sustainable. So with that, we realized 30 to 40% of all foods go to landfill, even though they're perfectly fine to consume. And this is because they're seasonal or overstock, or they have package changes and so forth. So with that, we sold our food brands that we launched last year, and this January we started focusing on Martie. And Martie really is, well, for the consumer, it's cravings for savings. We help you shop smart and do your part. So this entire journey really led me to creating this online grocery store where we offer any type of shelf stable packaged foods at 40 to 70% off. And how we do this is that we work with brands to pick up any inventory that they can't move in their normal retail channels. So again, this can be, we have a lot of like Halloween sweets and candies right now because seasonal. We have a lot of package changes because brands keep getting new certifications that they want to put on their packagings that goes into normal retail channels. It can be simply overstock. Brands produce more than they can sell. Or it can be that they're moving closer to expiration. So this company, we raised our first seed round this summer, and we launched beginning of November. And we are currently only in California, going nationwide next year. So that's the really quick sort of journey that led me to Martie and what I'm doing now. And I figured I wanted to go into some learnings that I have as an entrepreneur, because I think that is way more exciting. So let's see, let's start jumping through these. Some of these are very obvious. You've seen them before. It's not something new. But when I was 19, 20, and starting a business, having someone talk to me about how lonely it is and what it means that it's lonely would probably have been very beneficial. So you've heard that it's lonely. How this sort of comes into effect, that is that you can't really share everything with anyone. So even having a co-founder, I have an amazing co-founder at this time. You bear responsibility to each other to really like keep your head on. There will be times during my 14, 15 years, and listen, I've left as a CEO twice for companies that I've founded. You will doubt yourself. You will, consider, am I making people disappointed? Am I the right person to do this? You can't really share that with anyone. It's just a gut feel. And either you get past it or you need to make the change. It will be, stress about like cash flow and money that you need to like come across as really bullish and like sure of yourself. There will be issues in the team that you need to solve it yourself. You can't involve other people because it's personal and private, and you bear responsibility as a leader to deal with these situations. So another thing that really affects feeling lonely is sometimes like it's you will have good highs, you will have good lows, and when you have like good lows, it can be a lot of things that accumulates that makes it feel really lonely, because it's hard to explain a lot of small things affecting you. So jumping to the next thing, It isn't glamorous. So I told you when I started my first business, this is 14, 15 years ago, it wasn't glamorous. Like no one thought it was glamorous at that point. Everyone was like, you're doing what? You're launching a business. Why are you not studying? What's wrong with you?" Um, it was hard to understand. Today, there's like this really nice shimmery light, and listen, it's fun, it's exciting, it comes with opportunity, but it's hard work. It's really hard work. You start early, you work late, you have a lot of pressure, you have a lot of stress. Again, it's lonely. Like, don't do it because it's glamorous. Because if you're building a big business, it's not. Um, Another lesson that I have is like you never recruit enough and you never start early enough. So one of the it's really clear to me as a CEO, the number one job you have is making sure that you have an amazing team. And it's really easy to get caught up in the daily tasks and sift through your inbox and make strategies and work on the budget and forecast. But truthfully, you should always be recruiting, and you should be recruiting way earlier than you think. And you should always have a good pipeline of people for any of the roles that you need to hire for in the future. And it's you'll just never do enough recruiting, and that's the honest truth. So just get on it early. Um, I do want to put emphasis on like how important sales is. So making sure that you understand that sales is a key feature, that you have people that are really good in sales in the team, that you as a founder study sales and understand all the all the details of like what a good sales process is will be important. You will be selling to your team, you will be selling to your partners, you will be selling to investors if you choose to bring on investors. Uh, Sales is a key feature, even if you're not a B2B sales company. So make sure that you get this skill set yourself and in your team. When I started my business, I thought, asking for help was would have me come across as I didn't know what I was doing, as I couldn't be trusted, as if I should know everything because I was the founder and CEO. And today I've learned that like asking for help is such a feature. You come across as someone that is like leaning in to learn. You come across as someone that is strategic enough to surround yourself with people that can help you. And you position yourself as someone that is like eager and willing to learn, which is like the most key important feature as a founder. So never underestimate the power of asking for help. And asking for help is a skill set. Understanding, taking a step back again, because you're going to be in the trenches so much, taking a step back and understanding what the current challenges are, what the question is, and who to ask it to is not easy. And you need to practice and asking questions. And if you do it right, you will just get so much things for free, and you will have amazing conversations and people leaning in to help you. So practice asking questions, practice getting people around you that you can learn from, and just lean in and soak it up. You don't have to know everything, but you need to be curious. Always stay curious. Um, and on that note, never stop learning. And I wanted to emphasize like learning here is also about like leadership. Like leadership is a skill to be trained. And when you're a founder, regardless of who you were or how you're starting, you will be a leader. People will look up to you, they will respect what you have to say. Even if you don't feel like that's the truth, that is the truth. And that comes with a lot of responsibility to really know how to best manage people, how to best use that power that you will have. So never stop learning and never stop, improving your leadership skills, and take those really seriously. Um, okay, and here's a good one. So be honest with yourself on what is your needs versus the business. So I have a personal experience with this, why this is very important for me. With leaving one of my companies as CEO, Ad Profit, it was a beautiful business making good profits, good revenue. We were expanding into new markets, and I really noticed that I was driving the business into new opportunities, and I was trying a lot of different new things. And it wasn't because the business needed it, but it was because I needed it. And as a founder, like really understanding and doing that gut check of, does the business need to go this direction, or is this a personal need that I need a new challenge, or I'm interested in this thing, or I have a personal vision that drives me here. There might be a time where you grow apart from what the business needs and what you needs. Not always, but it might happen. And just making sure that you have a gut check of what the business needs and that it's aligned with your needs. Just making that, a common check is, I think, very important, especially early days. And listen, if it's not aligned, then you should go on and do other bigger things and make sure that you are in an environment that where you thrive, and the business is an environment where you thrive, where the business thrives. I mentioned this as a part of like it's lonely, but just know that the highs are high. But I will admit, like, you will get past it really quickly because you are already in the mindset to the next thing. So I've had exits, I've raised capital, I've hired really good people, and the time I celebrate, um, I'm not proud of it, but it's very short. Because your brain will actively be thinking about all the other possible challenges and everything else that you've already working on. So how that really comes into play is, usually as an entrepreneur, you will make sure that your team celebrates. You will make sure that everyone feels like they're doing a tremendous job, that they're like really getting part of this phenomenal thing that happened, and you will probably be off to the next thing sooner rather than later. Um, and kind of like the opposite, unfortunately, is like the lows are even lower. Like it can get really tough. And it's just like the willingness and the drive to make things better, the pressure that you are the one to make sure that there's payrolls being paid, that there's enough runway, that partners are happy and so forth, that will keep you in that mindset to not relax too much until you're like truly past any danger zones, which is a very, very long after you started a company. And I just want to like wrap up with saying people, 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 like whatever you do, people is key. And we've touched on this a bit. Like you need to be recruiting the best people, you need to have mentors, you need to have people to ask questions, you need to have a safe zone. Preferably, you have an amazing co founder because that makes life a lot easier. So never underestimate the time and the effort that you spend in surrounding yourself with great people. Make sure that if you take external financing, that you do background checks, that you do reference checks on these. Who's in your board and who's investing in your company is just as important as who you hire. So don't underestimate any of the channels of people that you surround yourself with. And listen, guys, that's it. We had 20 minutes. That was 20 minutes, done and done. I know that we have 5 minutes for Q&A and chat. This is pretty straightforward. Thank you for like sharing some comments in the chat as always, as I was going, feeling less lonely, sitting sitting here in my guest bedroom early morning. But yeah, fire them up if you have any questions. Just like hit me up. And otherwise, I would make sure that you go to the 2D Hangout. Like I know there's a lot of other great speakers that you can interact with and participants. So yeah, I'll wait for like another minute or two if anyone has a question. But I think that's it. Pretty straightforward. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Cool. I'm gonna drop out, guys. And Samia, you asked about a link. Just let me know which kind of link you're referring to, and I can share it with you. Don't know exactly which one you're looking for. Oh, okay. Here's a few questions. Fun. Okay, so how are you planning to scale for use-based startups or other markets of interest in your space? Probably not. US is like a huge country, right? And we're only live in California. We're gonna go nationwide next year. Um, we do have currently we only do shelf stable foods. We have some other expansion plans and types of our inventory. There's opportunities for like, just like product based opportunities, subscription and memberships and such that we haven't even touched yet. So scale up for us is definitely like all of the US. And then it's kind of like product assortment. That's going to be our main focus. I don't see this having to go outside of the US to be a tremendously big company, to be honest. And then Christoph, what surprised you the most about starting your businesses? I think uh, that's a great question. I like gut says like the loneliness at times, and I think I need to say that with consideration. I started so young at 19, and I think years for me that was really hard was when I was like 24, 25, and most of my friends were like partying every day, uh, from like just like having a blast at the university. And I went up at 7 a.m. and worked until late. And I had, it was at that point, I was really young and I didn't necessarily hire the best resources. And I was having a lot of, at times, issues with resources, which is really hard. And especially when your peers just can't connect. So the loneliness that I felt was probably like the biggest when I was really young because I drifted apart from my friends because we just had very different lifestyles. And I started hanging out with, like, at that point in time, I felt really old people that had a similar like lifestyle to me. So it will always be lonely, but like during a few years, I really felt it just due to how my friends lived their life versus sort of the challenges I needed to sift through and go through. And I didn't have I had a coach that I worked with and so forth, thank God, but didn't necessarily have the same the same network that I have today. Cool. I think I'm gonna tap out. I think that's it. Bye.